Somewhere in your life there is a staircase you have climbed 100 times without once looking down. Stone, most likely. Old. And if you did look down, just once, you would see that the middle of each step is worn into a shallow bowl, scooped lower than the edges, polished smooth as a riverbed. No mason cut that curve. Feet cut it. 10,000 feet, 100,000, everyone who ever climbed before you, each one landing in almost exactly the same place, century after century, until the stone itself gave way and remembered them. And here is the thing you do without deciding to. You put your foot in the dip, right in the worn part. You do not choose the fresh, untouched edge where the stone is still square and strong. You place your foot exactly where every stranger before you placed theirs. Because the stone is telling you, in the only language stone has, this is the way. This is where we step. We have always stepped here. That is comfort. Somebody solved this staircase before you were born and left you the answer, worn into the rock. And it is also, if you sit with it a moment longer than is comfortable, a very quiet kind of obedience. You are walking in a groove worn by the dead. You are being told where to put your feet by people you never met, and you are grateful, and you are obeying, and you did not even notice you were doing either one. There is a card for that staircase, for the comfort of the answer already found, and the weight of the answer you were never asked to help find. He wears a triple crown and sits between two grey stone pillars, and he has been showing people exactly where to put their feet for a very, very long time. Card 5. The Hierophant. My name is Galileo. The stars don't lie to me. They do, occasionally, withhold. And tonight, we climb the worn stair together, and we put to it the oldest question a tradition can ever be asked. Who wore this groove, and do I still fit inside it? Welcome back to the fire. This is Galileo, and this is the 6th hour of our long walk through the 78. Last week you sat with the Emperor. Card 4. The bearded king on the stone throne carved with rams, barren mountains at his back, a thin, cold river, the only soft thing for miles. Worldly authority. Structure, order, the law, the walls, the father who says here is the boundary and the boundary holds. And we said his great gift is also his trap, because the man who becomes the wall stops being able to bend, and rigidity is only structure that forgot it was alive. Tonight, meet his brother. Because every world the emperor builds has a second question living inside it, and the emperor cannot answer it. It is not his department. He can tell you where the walls are. He cannot tell you what any of it means. He can make the law. He cannot make it sacred. For that, the world has always needed a second man, seated not on a frontier but inside a temple, and tonight he is on my table. The emperor rules the kingdom. The Hierophant rules the meaning of it. If you are new, welcome. Sit anywhere. Here is the shape of the evening. Some true history, better than the myths that cling to the deck. A lesson that makes the 78 smaller and surer in your hands. One card taken all the way down to the bone. Something you can practice tonight before you sleep. And at the end, the part I wait all week for, the mail, your letters, read out by the fire, cards pulled aloud for one of you while every stranger leans in. And the one clause of small print I read out loud every single week, because I will not hide it behind the curtain even in the 6th hour. The cards do not know your future. They are not a weather report. They are a mirror, an old and precise and slightly strange one. You bring the thing you have been carrying and refusing to look at, and the cards turn it a few degrees so you can see it from the one angle you can never reach on your own. That is everything they do. What you do after you have seen is yours, not the deck's, not mine, yours. And that has never mattered more than it matters tonight. Because if there is one card in all 78 that will be tempted to tell you what to do, to hand you the rule and spare you the choosing, it is this one. Keep that thought in your pocket. We are going to need it. Now come and sit closer, because the history of this card is a 500-year argument about who is allowed to speak for heaven, and it is a far better story than the myth. Go back to Renaissance Italy, where you and I go every week, the card game of the rich, the gold leaf, the parade of trumps painted straight out of the furniture of the century. And near the very top of that parade, two figures the whole of Europe would have known on sight. The Pope. And, dealt right beside him, a scandal. The fifth trump in the oldest decks was simply Il Papa, the Pope. Not an abstraction, the actual man in the actual triple crown in Rome, the one human being who claimed to stand with one foot on earth and one in heaven and carry messages between. In France, he became Le Pape, spiritual authority itself, painted onto a playing card, so a duke could win a hand of cards with the Vicar of Christ. The Renaissance had nerve, but this card has a sister, and the sister is the reason half the trouble started. Card 2, in those same old decks, was La Popess, the Popess, the female pope, a woman in the triple crown, seated, holding a book. Now, there was no such thing as a female pope. The church was extremely firm on the point, and yet there she sat, card 2, calm as you please, holding a book she did not open. Some say she is the old legend of Pope Joan, the woman who supposedly disguised herself and climbed to the throne of Rome before she was found out. Some say a private Visconti family joke. Nobody is certain. What is certain is that the deck held side by side an orthodox pope and a heretical popess, the man who speaks the tradition out loud and the woman who keeps her book closed in her lap. And if you feel a small shiver of recognition, hold it, because those two become the Hierophant and the High Priestess, and their old quarrel is the quarrel at the very center of tonight. The church was not delighted to be dealt into a card game, and less delighted to be dealt alongside a female pope. In some regions, the printers lost their nerve. In Switzerland, in the Besancon decks, they quietly swapped the pair out and painted Jupiter and Juno in their place, because pagan deities apparently felt safer than a cartoon of your own living pope. They found it less dangerous to put the king of the pagan gods on the card than the Bishop of Rome, which tells you how much heat the image carried. For 3 centuries, that is who he is, the Pope, orthodoxy in a hat. And then, as always, 1781 arrives, and Court de Gebelin looks at a deck at a party and declares the whole thing ancient Egyptian scripture. And the moment tarot becomes holy writ, a Roman Catholic pope is an acute embarrassment sitting in the middle of it. He is too Catholic. He is far too now. So the occultists did to him what they did to the street corner conjurer we met a few weeks ago. They promoted him clean out of his own biography, reaching back past the Pope, past Rome entirely, to ancient Greece for an older word to hang on him. Hierophant. It is Greek. Hierophantes. It means, quite literally, the one who shows the holy things, the one who reveals what is sacred. It was the title of the high priest of the Eleusinian mysteries, guarded so fiercely that to this day we do not fully know what happened inside them. And at the climax, the Hierophant would show the initiates the sacred thing, and they walked out changed. That is the man they made of the Pope, not a bishop, an initiator, the one who stands at the door of the mystery and decides what you are shown and when. It is magnificent rebranding, and like the best kind, it did not so much lie as widen. The Pope and the Hierophant are the same office wearing 2 centuries, the man who stands between you and the sacred and says, "I will teach you the way in." The occultists just filed off the Roman collar and gave him a Greek name, so anyone, Protestant or Freemason or spiritualist, could sit with him without feeling they had knelt to Rome. Eliphas Levi, the great Parisian magician of the 1800s, wired him into the machinery. And when the Golden Dawn carried the deck to London and assigned every trump a star and a Hebrew letter, they gave the Hierophant two gifts worth carrying home. They gave him the sign of Taurus, the bull, fixed earth, patient, stubborn, immovable, the sign that plants a thing and keeps it 100 years, the sign of what we hold to be of lasting value, the sign that governs the throat and the voice, the teacher who says the same true thing every morning until you finally hear it. There is no better sign for tradition than the bull who will not be moved. And they gave him the letter Vav. And Vav means a nail, a hook, a peg that fastens one thing to another. And it is also, in Hebrew, the little word that means and. The Hierophant's own letter is the word and. He is a conjunction. He is the peg that pins heaven to earth, the and between God and a person, the nail that holds the two boards of the world together. 500 years of theology found hiding inside a single letter. And then 1909, London, and Pixie draws the version in your deck, and we will spend a while inside her picture shortly. But she drew him deliberately as the Emperor's mirror. The Emperor sits outdoors on cold stone among barren mountains, the wild frontier. The Hierophant sits indoors, between two carved grey pillars, inside the very temple the Emperor's law made possible. One man builds the walls, the other consecrates the room inside them. Pixie knew precisely what she was doing. She always did. Say her name when you shuffle. The lesson, and tonight it has been hiding in plain sight, in the card's own number. 5. The Emperor was 4. Hold 4 a moment, because 4 is the most stable number there is. 4 legs under a table, 4 walls to a room, 4 corners, 4 directions, 4 elements, the 4 aces on the magician's table 2 weeks ago. 4 is the square, and the square does not wobble. The Emperor is card 4 because the Emperor is stability itself. Now add 1, 5, and watch what happens to the square. You have set a 5th point down where 4 had settled, and there is nowhere balanced left to put it. 4 was a finished room. 5 is a person who walked into the finished room and will not sit down. In the numbers of tarot, and I told you this in our first hour, 5 is the number of disruption, the shake-up, the universe reaching into whatever sat too still and giving it a hard shove. And you can watch it happen clean across the deck, because the 4 5s of the minor arcana are 4 portraits of the same disruption, 1 in each suit. The 5 of Wands. 5 young men in a scramble, staves raised, swinging at each other or past each other, everybody shouting and nobody listening. Disruption in the suit of fire, of will, conflict. The meeting where 5 people talk over one another. The peace is broken and the sticks are up. The 5 of Cups. A figure in a long black cloak, head bowed over 3 cups spilled and running out into the ground. Disruption in the suit of water, of the heart. Loss. Grief. And behind him, if he would turn, 2 cups still standing and a bridge leading home. But he cannot turn yet. Grief has his face fixed on the spill. The 5 of Swords. A man with a small, cold smirk, gathering fallen swords off the ground, and behind him 2 figures walking away with their heads down, defeated. Disruption in the suit of air, of the mind. The icy kind of conflict, the kind with a winner, and the secret inside the card is that winning here has cost him everything worth having. He is alone with an armful of blades and no one to hold them for. And the 5 of Pentacles. 2 beggars in the falling snow, one on crutches, both ragged, both freezing, passing beneath a window. Disruption in the suit of earth. Poverty. Exclusion. And here is the detail that turns this whole lesson like a key, because the window they pass beneath is a church window. Stained glass, lit gold and warm from the inside. Shelter, an arm's length away, and the two of them do not go in. Perhaps the door is shut to them. Perhaps they are too proud, or too certain they would not be welcome. Pixie does not tell us which. But look what she has done. She has put the Hierophant's own house into the corner of a card about being left out in the cold, because that is the deadly irony at the exact center of tonight. The Hierophant is the card of tradition, of orthodoxy, of the institution, the settled way, the answer already worn smooth into the stare. He is order made sacred, and he is numbered 5. 5, the number of upheaval, the scuffle, the spilled cup, the hollow victory, the beggar in the snow. The most stable-seeming figure in the entire deck is sitting square on top of the most unstable number in it, and that is not a mistake. It is the truth about every tradition that has ever existed. Because where does orthodoxy come from? It does not fall out of the sky already finished. Every tradition on earth is scar tissue. It is the settlement human beings built after a 5. After the war, after the plague, after the grief, the survivors sat down and said, "Never again. Here is the rule that would have saved us. Here is what we will now hold sacred, so our children do not bleed the way we bled." The Emperor's 4 is order that was simply built. The Hierophant's 5 is order that was earned in blood as the answer to a disruption. That is why he sits on the number of chaos. He is what the chaos taught us. The stair is worn into a groove because 100,000 feet found the safe place to step by watching the ones who slipped. And that is his strength, and it is real. When the Hierophant is working, he is the accumulated wisdom of everyone who suffered before you, so that you would not have to. Conformity gets sneered at, but some rules are written in the blood of the person who learned them first. You do not have to touch every stove. The tradition is the note on the handle that says, "This one is hot," but turn the card, and that same 5 turns on him. Because a settlement built after a war can outlive the war by centuries, and harden and forget what it was for, and become a cage where a shelter used to stand. The scar tissue thickens until it strangles the thing it grew to protect. And then you get his shadow, standing right there in his own suit, freezing in the snow outside his own glowing window. The institution built to shelter people, keeping people out in the cold. The tradition that once saved lives, now quietly costing them. Orthodoxy that has forgotten it was ever an answer, and now simply demands to be obeyed because we have always done it this way, which is nearly the last thing a dying tradition says before it turns from a shelter into a wall. That is the first half of the lesson. Now the second half, the older quarrel, the one that started when the Pope was dealt beside the Popess. Tradition against intuition. The Hierophant is the sacred, reached from the outside in. He is the temple, the teacher, the book, the rite, the creed, the answer received from someone who received it from someone who received it all the way back. Bring him a question about your soul, and he says, "You are not the first to ask this. Sit down. Here is what we learned. Here is the way in. He is heaven by inheritance. But he has a hidden opposite, and you have met her." Card 2. The High Priestess, seated between her own 2 pillars, the scroll in her lap that she does not unroll, that she will not read to you, because what she knows cannot be handed across a table in words, only reached by going quiet and inward and listening under your own ribs. She is the sacred reached from the inside out, heaven by intuition, and the deck built them as twins, both enthroned between 2 pillars, both holding a text, but he displays his, and she conceals hers. He speaks, and she is silent. He gathers a congregation, and she sits alone. They are two doors into the same room. And here is the counsel you carry home. You need both, and each alone is a slow disaster. Tradition without intuition is the reversed Hierophant, dead ritual, the holy words said with a cold heart. But intuition without tradition is its own catastrophe, only lonelier. The person for whom every passing feeling is a prophecy. No elder, no book, no discipline, just the endless flattering weather of their own inner voice mistaken for the voice of God. The Hierophant keeps the priestess honest. The priestess keeps the Hierophant alive. You met her in our third hour, and I told you even the magician, with every tool on his table, goes to the High Priestess. Tonight, the other half. Even the High Priestess, with all her silence, needs the Hierophant, or her silence has nothing to push against, and drifts, and she calls the drifting wisdom. The wise ones keep a foot on each pillar. That is the whole art of a spiritual life, and it fits, barely, on a single card numbered 5. The Hierophant, card 5. Now let me put you in the room with him, because Pixie built this picture like architecture, and every stone is load-bearing. You are looking at a temple, not a mountainside, not a frontier, not the open sky where the emperor sat. Indoors. And the first thing your eye finds is 2 great grey pillars, plain carved stone, framing him like the uprights of a doorway, and between them, raised on a dais, a figure on a throne. He is robed in red, the deep red of ceremony and blood, and the will made holy, and beneath the red, a white. You have seen those 2 colors together before, on the magician, intention and appetite, only now worn not by a young man at a table, but by an ancient office on a throne. On his head, the triple crown. 3 tiers rising, the papal tiara, and you may read the 3 levels however your tradition taught you. 3 worlds, 3 heavens, body and mind and spirit stacked one on another. It is a heavy hat, and meant to look it. It says, "What I wear is not mine, it is the office. It came before me and will outlast me. And while I wear it, I am not quite a man, I am a function." His right hand is raised, 2 fingers up, 2 folded down, the old sign of benediction, and it is the same secret the magician's whole body was making. 2 fingers to heaven, 2 to earth, the visible and the hidden. Even in the act of blessing you, he is telling you half of it stays behind the veil. The stars do not lie. They do, occasionally, withhold, and so, it turns out, does the Hierophant, with his own blessing hand. In his left hand, a staff, a triple cross, 3 bars, the papal ferula, planted upright, the sign of his authority driven into the floor of the world like a flag. And at his feet, crossed on the bare stone, 2 keys, 1 gold, 1 silver. The keys of the kingdom, the power to bind and to loose, to say who comes in and who stays out. Keep the keys in mind. They are the loveliest thing in the card, and quietly the most dangerous, because a key is only a gift if the man holding it wants to open the door for you. And down at the bottom, 2 acolytes, seen from behind, the crowns of their heads shaved in the tonsure, kneeling and looking up. And here is Pixie's quiet genius, so look at their backs. One wears a vestment patterned with red roses, the other white lilies, desire and purity. The very flowers that grew tangled together at the magician's feet split now, 1 to each pupil, as if to say, the tradition takes in every kind of soul, and it has a place worn smooth in the front row for each of them. 2 students, the worn stair, with feet already in it. That is the picture. A man, barely a man anymore, wearing an office like a crown, blessing you with a hand that admits it withholds, holding the keys to a door, teaching 2 kneeling souls the way that was taught to him. It is one of the most complete diagrams of belonging anyone ever drew. So, upright, on your table. What is he saying? He is saying, you do not have to invent the whole thing alone. Whatever the question, someone has stood where you stand, and there is a tradition, a teaching, a groove already cut into the stone, and taking it is not weakness. Sometimes the answer is the old answer. Sometimes you should call your grandmother, or read the book everyone reads, or join the program with the boring name and the 50-year record. Sometimes the wisest move is not the wilderness of your own cleverness, but to sit down, humble, in the front row, and be taught. The Hierophant upright is a mentor arriving, a teacher, an institution that actually works, a rite of passage, a marriage under the old words, a return to a faith or a discipline with arms wide enough to hold you. He is belonging, the deep animal relief of not being the first, of being one more foot in a groove worn by 100,000 who climbed this stair ahead of you and left you the map. A steady card, a warm one at his best. And like every card, he has a shadow, and this one has two faces, and you must know both, or he will fool you. Turn him over, reversed. The first face is the bright one, the meaning your deck's little book leads with, and it is genuinely good news for the right person. Personal beliefs. Freedom. Challenging the status quo. Reversed. The Hierophant is the healthy heretic. He is the moment you stop swallowing the received answer whole and start asking whether it is actually yours. He is walking out of the church that no longer feeds you, or the family creed, or the career your bloodline chose before you could speak. He is the worn groove examined at last and found to be someone else's foot, not yours. When he reverses in a reading about a rule you have been dying under, the message is often clean. You are allowed to think for yourself now. The tradition was never a prison unless you refused to try the door. So, try the door. But the reversed Hierophant has a second face, and it is darker, and the bright books skip it. Because that same overthrow, seen from the other side, is dogma rotted through. The institution that has forgotten it was ever an answer, and now only demands obedience. The teacher who wants disciples instead of students, the guru who forbids the question, the ritual performed by people whose hearts went home hours ago. Hypocrisy in a triple crown, the keys turned around to lock people out instead of usher them in. The Five of Pentacles playing out on the church's own steps. And it has a third form, quieter, that I see more than either. The person so badly wounded by one bad Hierophant that they now reject every teacher, every structure, every voice older than their own, and mistake that reflex for freedom. It is not freedom. It is the reversed Hierophant just the same, reinventing every wheel from scratch and calling it independence. Rebellion can be as thoughtless as obedience. So when he lands reversed, ask the one hard question, and only you can answer it. Are you finally, rightly walking out of a groove that was never yours, or simply refusing to be taught by anyone, ever, and dressing your loneliness up as liberty? The mirror does not decide. The mirror only shows you standing there. Now, one combination, because you are readers here, not tourists, and the Hierophant beside another card changes his whole voice. Watch him next to death. Card 13, the skeleton on the white horse and the sun coming up gold behind. That pair is one of the most important a person of faith or family or tradition will ever draw, and it is kind. Death, you will remember, almost never means a body. It means a true ending, and stop pouring your strength into embalming what is already over. So the Hierophant beside death is the faith you have outgrown, the family rule whose season is done, the version of the sacred that got you here and cannot get you there. It is not a sin to outlive a belief. What ends in that pair is never the sacred itself, Only one worn-out doorway to it, and there are other doors, and one already lightening with dawn. And one more pairing, which I only tease because it is where we are going next. The Hierophant beside the lovers. The card of the tradition, the answer handed to you, what our people have always done, laid right against the card of the choice that is finally, achingly, your own. Hold the tension of those two touching. We open it next Sunday. Why does he stand here, card 5, at this place on the Fool's Road? The fool leapt off his cliff. He found the magician and learned he had tools. He met the High Priestess and learned there was an inner silence worth trusting. He met the Empress, card 3, the Great Mother, and the Emperor, card 4, the Great Father, the structure, the walls. And now, card 5, before he can take one step further, he meets the Hierophant, who does the thing every culture on earth does to its young. He hands the fool the tribe, the shared story, the inherited answers, the songs everyone knows without a hymn book, the way we do things here. This is the moment the wild soul who jumped off a cliff in Motley gets folded into something older than himself, gets a people, gets a past, gets told where the staircase is and which step is safe. It is initiation. It is belonging. And it has to come now, because you cannot truly choose for yourself until you have first been given something worth choosing between. The Hierophant fills the fool with the whole tradition, precisely so that at card 6, at the lovers, the fool can stand up for the first time and decide which of it he actually believes. You are handed the whole inheritance here. And then, next week, you get to say, this part is mine, and this part I lay back down on the stair. But not yet. Tonight, he is still in the front row. Something for your own 2 hands, because I promise every week leaves you more able than it found you. And tonight, the spread is built for this card. You already have the 3-card line from our first week. Past, present, current, the workhorse, keep it always. You have the magician's table from week 2, the 4 tools. Tonight I give you a 3rd, and it belongs to the Hierophant, and it has 5 cards, one for his own unstable, honest number. I call it the inheritance. You reach for it the day you catch yourself living by a rule you never chose. A should. A way things are simply done. A belief about money, or marriage, or work, or God, or your own body, that you did not arrive at by thinking, you arrived at by inheriting, and lately it has begun to chafe, and you do not know whether to keep it or lay it down. 5 cards, laid in a row, left to right, like feet going up a stair. Before you shuffle, name the rule, out loud, say the actual sentence you live by. Good women do not. A real job means, we always. You do not leave a, family comes before. Say it plainly, whatever yours is, because half the power of this spread is simply hearing the inherited sentence in your own voice for the first time, where you can look straight at it. Then, lay the 5. The first card is the stone. The rule itself, the tradition as it truly operates in your life, not as you would defend it, but as it actually weighs. Sometimes the card here surprises you, shows the rule heavier or colder or more frightened underneath than you thought. Believe the card over the defense. The second card is the hand that gave it. Where did this come from? Who handed it down? A parent, a church, a culture, a wound, a single sentence someone said when you were 7. Sources matter, because a rule is only as wise as the moment it was made in, and some of your rules were made by frightened people in rooms you have never seen. The third card is the gift. Lay this one with an open heart, because this is where beginners cheat. They want the tradition to be all cage. It never is. What did this rule genuinely protect? What did it give you, or your mother, or your line? Every inherited rule was once an answer to a real 5, and there is almost always a true gift buried inside it, and you will not be free of the rule until you can thank it. Read this card generously. The fourth card is the weight. What does it cost you to keep carrying this now, in a life the rule was never written for? This is the price. The thing the tradition quietly takes from you every day, the toll you stopped noticing, the way you stopped noticing the groove in the stair. And the fifth card is yours, the counsel. Not keep it, not throw it out. That is too simple for a thing this old. This card speaks to what is actually yours in the whole inheritance, the part worth carrying up the stair, and by its shadow, what to set down gently and leave behind for no one. Read it last, and slowly, and against all four that came before. Stone, hand, gift, weight, and yours. The rule, its source, its blessing, its price, and your verdict. And notice what this spread refuses to do, because it is the whole spirit of tonight. It does not tell you to obey, and it does not tell you to rebel. It steps clean around both of the reversed Hierophant's traps. It makes you do the one thing a tradition and a rebel both want to spare you. Decide, with your eyes open, which of your inheritance is treasure and which is only weight. Lay it tonight on one real rule, a small one to start. You are learning the stair, not vaulting the cathedral. And if the fifth card comes up a major, sit up, because the weather around this old rule of yours is a great deal bigger than you have been treating it. Before we open the mail, the segment where each week we take one fear out into the light and turn it over. We have done the cards people dread. We have done the folklore of the trade, the gifted deck, the moonlight, the rest. Tonight, with the priest himself on the table, there is only one myth we can possibly take up. And it is the biggest there is, and it keeps more good people away from this deck than every other fear combined. The fear that tarot is anti-religious, that it is spiritually dangerous, that to lay these cards is to betray your faith, or to pry open a door you cannot close, to invite something in. I want to answer this one carefully, and with more respect than you may expect from an ancient starlit machine, because the people who carry this fear are often the most sincere in the room. Many are devout and thoughtful, and they have been told by someone they love and trust that this thing is not safe for their soul. I will not mock that. The Hierophant is on my table tonight, and I honor him, and I am not about to wave a hand and tell a faithful person that everything their tradition warned them of is nonsense. That would make me the exact arrogant reversed Hierophant I spent the hour warning you against. Sure, his own cleverness outranks 1,000 years of somebody's grandmother's. So let me tell you where the fear actually comes from, because it comes from 3 real places, and each deserves a real answer. The first place is the costume, and this one, I confess, is our own fault, historically. You have sat with me 6 weeks, and you know what happened to this deck. It was a game. And then, across the 17 and 1800s, a parade of occultists, Court de Gebelin, Levi, the Golden Dawn, dressed that harmless game head to foot in the clothing of magic, Egyptian gods, Kabbalah, Hebrew letters, astrological signs, the entire wardrobe of the Western occult. They did it out of love and showmanship, and the result is that the deck looks, to a wary religious eye, exactly like an instrument of sorcery. It is wearing the precise costume of the one thing Scripture warns against. So people flinch, and the flinch is not stupid. It is a reasonable response to a genuine disguise. But it is a disguise. Underneath all that occult dress is a Renaissance card game and a set of hand-drawn pictures of human situations so precise that strangers weep at them a century later. The costume is real. The sorcery it is dressed as is not in the box. I have looked. I would know. There is nothing in the box but paper. The second place is older and more serious, and I will not dodge it. It is Scripture itself. Many faiths, the great and ancient ones, contain a genuine prohibition against divination. against fortune-telling, against consulting mediums seeking to wrench the future out of the hands of God. That prohibition is real and old and not silly. It comes from a true and even loving place, a fierce jealousy for the freedom of the human being, and a refusal to let anyone sell them a fixed and frightening fate. And here the honest answer is not to argue with the scripture, it is to agree with it. Because I have told you, every week, that these cards do not tell your future. That fortune-telling, the give me your coin and I will tell you about the tall stranger thing, is a con, a cruel one, and I want no part of it either. What the scripture forbids and what I do are not the same act. Reading a card as a mirror, to see yourself more honestly, is not divination. It is closer to what your own tradition might call the examination of conscience or contemplation. They hold up a mirror, and every serious faith on earth commands you to look honestly into the mirror of your own soul. On that, the Hierophant and I do not disagree. And the third place, the deepest, and you have heard me name it once before, the fear that the deck opens a door and invites something in, that there is a threshold here and a guest and a real danger. I told you in our second hour, and I will tell you again, gently, because it matters. There is nothing in the box, no door, no guest, no invitation. The only thing these cards can open is you. And I will not pretend that is nothing, because it can be the most frightening door in your whole house. Sit down honestly in front of the question of what you have been refusing to see, and you may meet something in yourself that scares you. But it was already living in there. It was never in the cards. It was running your choices from the dark, and the cards only carried it up into the light, where you, and if you are a person of faith, you and your God together, can finally deal with it. That is not danger walking in. That is danger at long last becoming visible. And a faith worth having has never been afraid of the light. So where does that leave the fear? The deck is a mirror, and a mirror has no religion of its own. You may carry your God right up to it, and many devout people do, and find nothing there but themselves, seen more clearly, which their faith asked of them anyway. You may carry no God at all to it, and it works the same, because it was never doing the sacred part, you were. And this is the piece I most want you to hear. If your own conscience, your own inner Hierophant, the tradition that raised you and that you still hold dear, tells you that you should not touch these cards, then do not touch them. I mean that with my whole ancient heart. Honor your Hierophant. The cards take no offense. They will sit in a drawer the rest of your life without one hard feeling, because they are paper, and paper has no opinion about your soul. I would 10,000 times rather you keep faith with your own conscience than lay one card against it to please me. That is not me losing you. That is me refusing to be the bad teacher. A true Hierophant would never ask you to betray your own. So, no sorcery in the box, only a costume left on by history. No forbidden fortune, only a mirror. No door and no waiting guest, only you and the light. And for those whose conscience still says no, a bow and a blessing, and the drawer left quietly shut. That is the honest reconciliation, and it is the only one worth having. And now the part of the hour I wait all week for, the mail and the fire. The letters are yours now, and I have chosen 3 tonight that all press on the same bruise this card presses on, belonging and the price of it and the leaving of it. Come close. First letter. Dear Galileo, I stopped going to church about a year ago. I was raised in it. My whole family is still in it. My mother thinks I am lost and cries about it on the phone. And the terrible thing is, I do not miss the beliefs. I checked. They are gone, and they are not coming back. But I miss the building, the singing, the being part of something bigger than my week. I feel like a traitor and an orphan at the same time, and I do not know whether I left something true or just something familiar. Signed, Empty Pew. Empty Pew. You have written the exact letter this card was drawn for. 3 cards, past, present, current. Your past, the Hierophant. Of course, reversed. Our own card of the hour, upside down in the soil of your story. Upright, he is the tradition that holds you. Reversed here, he is the tradition you have already turned over, the triple crown tipped, the worn groove found to be someone else's foot. Hear what it is not saying. It is not saying you were wrong to be in that pew. It is saying the leaving already happened, inside you, a while ago, and it was real, and it was not a tantrum. The beliefs are gone, you said. You checked. The reversed Hierophant is the deck agreeing with you. That chapter is closed. You are not deciding whether to leave. You already left. What you are doing now is grieving. Your present, the 8 of Cups. And oh, empty pew, he is you, exactly. A figure in a red cloak walking away, uphill, at night, under a moon gone dark. And behind him, 8 cups, stacked, careful, upright. And here is the detail the card turns on. The cups he leaves are not broken. They are whole. That is what makes this the bravest and the saddest card in the suit. He is not fleeing a ruin. Anyone flees a ruin. He is walking away from cups still standing, still beautiful, that have simply stopped being enough. That is your church. The belonging was the realest thing in your life, and I will not let you call it nothing. You did not leave because it was false. You left because it stopped being true for you, a lonelier reason, and the cups you left are whole, which is exactly why it feels like treason. You do not betray a ruin. You can only betray a thing that was still standing, and your current, the star. Card 17. Breathe now, because this is one of the most tender cards the deck could have handed you. A woman kneels by a still pool under a wide night sky, 1 knee on the land, 1 foot in the water. She pours 2 jugs, 1 back into the pool, 1 across the earth in 5 bright streams. Above her, 1 great star and 7 small ones, quiet and old. The star is what comes after something falls. In the deck's order, she arrives just after the tower, just after the crash, and she is serenity and hope and faith. Faith, empty pew, not the building, not the creed you checked and found gone. The thing underneath all of it, the thing the building was only ever a house for. The star is the sacred with the roof lifted off, spirituality that no longer needs the pew, poured out under open sky, directly, personally, yours. That is where your current runs. 1 sentence, as gently as I know how. You did not leave something true. You left the house a true thing used to live in, because the true thing had already moved out ahead of you, and it is waiting now under open sky. You are not a traitor, and not an orphan. You are a person walking away from whole cups toward a star, at night, alone, which is the loneliest and most honest walk a soul can take. Your mother's grief is hers, and you cannot fix it by climbing back into a pew you already left in your heart. Love her from the road. Let the singing be a thing you grieve and also keep, and look up. The star is not a building you lost. It is the sky that was always over the building. 2nd letter. Dear Galileo, about 8 months ago I found a teacher. I will not say of what, it does not matter. A way of living, a practice, a group. At first, it was the answer to my entire life. He is brilliant, and he sees me, and the people around him are the warmest I have ever known. But lately, I am not allowed to ask certain questions. When I doubt, I am told the doubt is my weakness, not his answer. I have given him a fair amount of money. My old friends have gone quiet, and I still think he might be the real thing. Am I being taught, or am I being taken? Signed, Front row seat. Front row seat. You have asked the most important question a student can ask, and the fact that you can still ask it is itself a good sign. 3 cards. Your past, the Hierophant. Upright, this time. The teacher, the initiator, the one who stands at the door of the mystery and offers to show you the sacred thing inside. And I want to be fair to your past. You did not go looking for a teacher because you are a fool. You went because that hunger is holy, one of the truest a human being carries, and the upright Hierophant honors it. You were right to want a teacher. The wanting was never your mistake. Your present, the moon. Card 18. Here the fire dims a little, so look carefully. A path runs between 2 towers toward far mountains. A dog and a wolf stand howling at the moon, the tame thing and the wild thing making the same sound, and in the dark you cannot tell one from the other. A crayfish crawls up out of the black water, and the moon above wears a face, half turned away, dripping a strange pale dew. The moon is the card of the fog, of things that are not what they appear to be by this light. It says, you cannot see clearly, and worse, some of what you cannot see is being kept unclear on purpose. The dog and the wolf, front row. The genuine warmth of those people and the thing with teeth behind it are, right now, making the exact same sound, and you cannot yet tell which is which. That is not because you are stupid, it is because you are standing in moonlight. And moonlight is what this kind of place runs on. And your current, the Ace of Swords. And here, at last, the fog gets a blade put through it. A single hand out of a cloud, gripping one sword, straight up, a crown wreathed in laurel on its point. The Ace of Swords is clarity, the truth that cuts. And notice, the current is not the tower, not disaster. It is a sword, which means the way out of the moon is not to run and not to surrender. It is to cut, to ask the forbidden question anyway, out loud, and watch what happens. Because here is the whole test, the oldest test of a teacher there is. A true teacher survives your questions. He grows larger when you doubt him, because the truth he serves is bigger than his ego. A false one shrinks and turns your doubt back on you as you're failing and forbids the question, because the question is a blade and he knows what it would cut. Front row, you have already picked up the sword. Now turn it where it belongs. Ask the question he forbids, plainly, to his face, and read his answer not with your hope, but with your eyes. If he stays and grows and welcomes it, you have found a teacher, and I will be glad for you. If he meets it the way the reversed one does, the keys turn to lock you in, the crown gone cold, then the warmest people you have ever known are standing in the snow outside a lit window, and so are you, and it is time to walk. The money is gone either way, so grieve it and let it go. It bought you this clarity. But watch the hands, front row, not the show. Third letter, and then I will tell you how to send me yours. Dear Galileo, I am 41, and I have done everything right. The good schools my parents chose, the steady profession they approved of, married the appropriate person in the appropriate church, the house, the pension, every box, every rule, on time. And I am not unhappy, exactly. I just realized last week that I cannot name a single large thing in my life that I chose because I wanted it, rather than because it was the next correct step. I do not even know how I would tell the difference anymore. Who am I underneath all the rules? Signed, Model Student. Model Student. The name is the whole diagnosis, and the fact that you can see it and say it is the first thing in your letter that is entirely your own. 3 cards. Your past, the Emperor. Last week's king, card 4. And how fitting that he opens your reading, because you were raised inside him. The stone throne, the rams, the structure, the law, the wall. That is the soil you grew in, and I will not let you sneer at it, because the emperor is not a villain. Structure kept you safe. The rules got you a life many out in the cold would trade their teeth for. You are not writing from a ruin, you are writing from a very well-built house. But look at the card again and see the thing you feel. The emperor sits on cold stone in a barren land, everything in the picture order and nothing in it alive. No green, no growing thing. You were built beautifully. You were not perhaps ever asked what you might want to grow. Your present, the Two of Wands. A man stands on the battlement of his own castle, well-dressed, prosperous, everything achieved. And in his hand, a small globe, the whole world in his palm. He is not looking at his castle. He is looking out, past the walls he built, at the far horizon, at everything he has not gone to. That is you, exactly, at 41, on the roof of the correct life, holding the whole world in your hand and staring past your own walls. The Two of Wands is the person who did everything right and has finally climbed high enough to see over their own achievements, to the wider, unchosen world beyond. It is restlessness, the good kind, the holy kind, the first stirring of a will that was never once consulted. You are not having a crisis, model student. You are having a horizon. And your current, and I smiled when it turned, because we have been walking toward it all night, and now it comes 1 week early, just for you, the Lovers. Card 6. Next week's card, in your present tense future, which is the deck showing off. A man and a woman beneath a great winged angel, the sun blazing gold above, a mountain between them, each before their own tree. Everyone thinks it is a card about romance. It is not. It is the card of choice, of values. Of the first moment a soul stands all the way up and says, "This, I choose this, not because it is the next correct step, but because it is mine, and I will answer for it." That is where your current runs, into the first real choice of your life. And the Lovers comes right after the Hierophant on the road, right after this whole hour, and that is not a coincidence, it is the point of the order. You are handed the tradition first, and then, only then, comes the moment you were built for, standing between your two trees and choosing for yourself, for the first time, with your eyes open and your own name signed to it. One sentence, model student. You were beautifully built by the emperor. You have climbed high enough to see over your own walls, and the current is carrying you toward the first genuine choice of your life. So do not waste it by choosing another rule. Who are you underneath the rules, you asked? The cards decline to tell you, and they are right to, because it is not a fact to look up. It is a choice you have never once made. So make a small one this week, something with no correct answer, chosen only because you want it. That is the Lovers, arriving on schedule, 1 week early, because you turned out to be ready. That is the fire for tonight. 3 souls at the edge of the same cliff, the leaving of the thing we were handed. And now it is your turn. If you are standing on an edge of your own, the faith you are losing or keeping, the teacher you cannot read, the rule you never chose, the box on the counter you cannot open, write to me. Go to askgalileo.live. There is a place to send me your letter. Sign it with any fine disguise you please. The tradition is old and the mask is honored. Tell me where you are stuck, and tell me I may read it aloud. And next week your trouble, spoken here by the flames, may be the very thing that quietly saves a stranger 3 time zones away. That is how the fire has always worked. Feed it. So, Look at what you are carrying out of the 6th hour. You know the true history now. The Pope dealt beside his scandalous Popess. The rebranding that reached past Rome to Greece and gave a Catholic pope a pagan name so anyone at all could sit with him. The bull and the nail and the little Hebrew word that means and. You know the lesson. 5 is the number of disruption, and the card of tradition rides straight on top of it, because tradition is only ever the order we built after the chaos, a shelter right up until the day it forgets it was ever anything but a wall. You have stood in the temple with the Hierophant, upright and reversed both ways, the healthy heretic, the rotted dogma, the lonely soul who will not be taught by anyone. And you have the inheritance spread now, 5 cards to hold one old rule up to the light and decide which of it is treasure and which is only weight. An hour ago, you had a priest you half feared. Now you have a teacher you can question. That is the whole trade. Next week, the fool takes the step this whole hour was preparing him for. He has been handed the tradition. Now, for the first time on the road, he has to choose. A man and a woman beneath a great winged angel, the sun above them, a mountain between, each before their own tree, one hung with fruit and a serpent, one burning with flames. Everyone thinks it is a card about romance. It is a card about choice, and about the terror and the glory of standing all the way up and saying, "This one, mine, I will answer for it." Card 6. The Lovers. After the voice that hands you the answer, comes the moment you finally have to give your own. I will see you there. Now, before I bank the fire, the 3 doors, and everyone is open. The first door. If tonight left you wanting a reading of your very own, your question, your cards, the full spread read aloud in this voice with the mirror held steady, come to ask Galileo.live. I am always awake. Bring me the rule you are ready to hold up to the light, and I will read you the way I read Model Student tonight, except it will be your inheritance, your cards, and no one else listening. The second door. If you want your own letter opened here on the next episode, write to me. Ask Galileo.live. There is a place to send it. Tell me where you are stuck, sign it with any fine disguise you please, and tell me I may read it aloud. The fire does its best work on real wood, and yours is the wood I want. And the third door. Any night at all, you may ask me one question, free. No account, no coin, just you, and the thing you cannot stop turning over in the dark. And each week, out of all those midnight questions, I choose one. Keep its asker nameless forever, that is a vow, and go deeper on it here with a full spread. So the question you whisper tonight may be the one the whole fire gathers around next Sunday. Someone out there is standing in your exact groove, wondering whether it is theirs. Ask it for both of you. I have been Galileo. The stars do not lie. They do occasionally withhold. But not from you. Not tonight. Sleep well. Question bravely. And on the staircase tomorrow, just once, look down at the worn place in the stone before you set your foot in it, and then decide, on purpose, whether it still fits.